A single playful sentence almost made me walk away from the only person who truly needed me. Looking back now, I realize that some moments in life arrive disguised as ordinary afternoons, carrying the power to rewrite an entire future. What happened on that old front porch in a quiet neighborhood of Asheville, North Carolina, taught me that healing often begins with laughter, and love sometimes enters your life when you aren't looking for it. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can change lives, if you still believe in hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a thoughtful comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep bringing these heartfelt stories to people around the world. My name is Nathan, and after my father's passing, I inherited more than his modest white house. I inherited his habit of fixing things. Broken fences, squeaky gates, loose porch steps. He always believed that repairing something outside often helped repair something inside as well. I never fully understood those words until I met my widowed neighbor, Rachel Mercer. Rachel had lived next door for almost 2 years, but we rarely spoke beyond friendly waves. Everyone in the neighborhood knew pieces of her story. Her husband, Samuel, had passed away unexpectedly 3 years earlier. Since then, she had quietly carried the weight of life alone. She worked long hours at the local library, cared for her elderly golden retriever named Cooper, and somehow managed to keep her flower beds blooming even when everything else around her seemed tired. One Saturday morning, I noticed the front porch of her old farmhouse leaning slightly to one side. Several boards had begun to split, and one railing looked dangerously loose. As I walked over with my toolbox, I expected her to politely refuse my help. Instead, she smiled with tired eyes that carried years of silent exhaustion and simply thanked me. The work was harder than I expected. Years of rain had weakened the wooden supports underneath. Every loose plank seemed to reveal another hidden problem. As sweat dripped from my forehead beneath the warm Carolina sun, Rachel brought out fresh lemonade and quietly sat nearby, watching me work while gently brushing Cooper's aging fur. Hours passed before we spoke about anything personal. She told me how silence had become the loudest sound in her home after Samuel was gone. Every creaking floorboard reminded her that she was the only one left to hear it. Holidays had become shorter. Birthdays became ordinary days. Even simple dinners felt too large for one person. I didn't know the right words to comfort her. Instead, I kept working. As evening settled over the neighborhood, the porch finally stood firm again. I stepped back, wiped the dust from my hands, and admired the finished work. It wasn't perfect, but it was safe. Strong again? Then Rachel looked at the repaired porch, looked back at me, and with the first playful smile I had ever seen on her face, she said that since I had fixed her porch so well, maybe I was responsible for fixing the rest of her life too. My heart nearly stopped. I awkwardly laughed, unsure whether she was serious. Embarrassed, I muttered something about being just the neighborhood handyman. For a brief second, I worried I had misunderstood everything. The silence that followed felt painfully long. Then she laughed, a genuine laugh that echoed across the yard. She admitted she hadn't joked with anyone in years and wanted to see if she still remembered how. Watching my confused expression made her laugh even harder until tears formed in her eyes. But those weren't only tears of laughter. She confessed that she had almost forgotten what happiness felt like. The simple act of someone showing up without expecting anything in return had reminded her she wasn't invisible anymore. She said the repaired porch wasn't what mattered most. What mattered was that someone had noticed it needed fixing before it completely collapsed. Her words stayed with me long after I returned home. Over the following months, repairing the porch quietly turned into something much bigger. I helped repaint her fence. She baked homemade apple pie whenever I finished a project. Sunday afternoons slowly became shared dinners instead of lonely evenings spent in separate houses. Cooper began waiting by the fence every evening, expecting my visit as faithfully as the sunset. Neighbors who had watched Rachel live behind closed curtains slowly saw her laughing again. She started volunteering at the community center, organizing book drives for local children, and planting flowers not only in her yard but also around empty neighborhood spaces. It amazed me how one small act of kindness seemed to multiply into dozens more. One autumn afternoon, nearly a year after repairing that porch, Rachel handed me a small wooden frame. Inside was an old photograph of Samuel standing proudly beside the same porch decades earlier. On the back she had written a simple sentence: "Some people repair houses. The rare ones help rebuild hearts." I realized then that she had changed my life just as much as I had changed hers. I had spent years believing I was simply fixing broken wood because it reminded me of my father. Instead, I had discovered that compassion often begins with ordinary acts no one else notices. Before this story comes to its close, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment telling us about a small act of kindness that changed your life, or perhaps one you hope to do for someone else. Your story may become the encouragement another person desperately needs today. A few months later, as spring flowers bloomed once again around that old farmhouse, Rachel and I sat together on the same porch where everything had begun. The boards no longer creaked beneath our feet. Children rode bicycles down the street. Neighbors waved as they passed. Peace had quietly returned to a place that once carried only loneliness. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking the video, sharing it with friends and family, and subscribing for more inspiring stories that remind us how ordinary kindness can create extraordinary miracles. Sometimes the strongest foundations aren't built with nails and wood at all. They're built with compassion, patience, faith, and the courage to show up for someone who thought the world had forgotten them.